one of the things I find interesting is you really can't have it both ways when it comes to this. My opponent supports the tax hikes that are coming in January from President Obama's tax extenders. What's going to happen with these tax hikes that my opponent supports is this: is Illinois alone it's going to cost us 31,000 jobs. Across America, it's going to cost us around 700,000 jobs. It's a bad time to raise taxes on manufacturing or jobs in general, the job creators in this country. It's just the wrong thing to do, especially with such a fragile recovery we have going on. Look, you know, I've gone out, I've talked to John Deere, I've talked to Caterpillar. I mean, there's a reason these the big manufacturers of our area support me. It's because I understand how this works. And the one thing that we can't do is continue the overregulation of our American job creators and overtaxation. I had a meeting, this was about 6 months ago. We had 3 major companies come in, Deere, Cat, and NCR. The gentlemen, they were all the CFOs. The gentleman from NCR said to me, he says, Bobby, we've got 20 to 25,000 jobs that are sitting offshore. We want to bring them back. And he says, what we need is simple. We need 2 things. We need to simplify the tax code and do not overregulate us. We understand we've got to have regulation to keep the bad players in check. But at the same time, you know, when you've got the federal government coming in and want to regulate farm dust, you want them to tell the American farmer that their 17-year-old kid can't ride on the combine. You know, it's things like that that totally overreach. I had a gentleman, Mike Kelly, he's a colleague of mine. They did a several $million-dollar project on a park in their city, and they weren't going to allow them to open the park up on grand opening night because the mirror was 1/4 of an inch too low in the bathrooms. Look, what we've got to do is we've got to have a government that works with our people. When you add taxes, and this is back to we create an environment of certainty. If you're an Illinois job, think about this for a minute. If you're an Illinois employer, why do you want to stay here? You know, because it's pretty scary. If you look at CAT, they were looking at expanding. Illinois was off the table. They're not coming to Illinois. We just lost a $1.3 billion company that was looking to come to Illinois. They went somewhere else. We had the better deal for them in Illinois, but because the hostile environment that's been created here, they went somewhere else because they were worried about the promises to be kept. We've got to educate our people. One of the things I hear constantly when I go out to all these manufacturers is the skill sets. You know, we've got some awesome community colleges throughout this district. We've got to get our folks over there, get them trained to where they can come on. Right now, the scary part is our manufacturers, you know, a lot of the folks are 50, 53, 55, on up, getting close to retiring, and then we are not passing on the skill set. So it's a pretty scary time to where we've got to make sure that our community colleges have the tools available to them to make sure we can get our kids back in there. Look, not everybody's going to go away to college, to a 4-year college. It's just a fact. You know, and I think it's important for us to totally understand that. But I do not believe that we can help grow American jobs by adding more taxes like my opponent wants to do in January, or by adding more overregulation. It's just the wrong thing to do. We've got to create this environment of certainty. 5% of the world's customers reside here. 95% of our customers are outside of the United States of America. Given a level playing field, we can compete and beat anybody out there.
Before we go to the audience, respond to the tax question.
Yeah, again, I will focus on our tax incentive. What we would like to look at is you offer tax incentive to bring these jobs home. And there's a tax disincentive for sending jobs overseas. We're talking about the jobs. And I think, you know, let's look right down the road a little bit to Freeport, Illinois, where we have 170 employees about ready to lose their job at a plant called Sensata. It happens to be owned by Bain Capital. I think why this has gotten a lot of attention is because Bain Capital owns this business, and the jobs by the end of the year will be shipped over to China. You know, I think we need to look at workers like that and ask them how these kind of trade policies have impacted them. You know, we have people there who have worked there 30, 40 years. You guys have talked to them as newspaper reporters and editors. And I would contend that, you know, they're doing their job, they're doing it well. And, you know, to add insult to injury, they have to train their Chinese replacements. I would say that there's some flawed policy when that's allowed to happen. You know, so, you know, when this term overregulation is thrown out there, you know, I'm for practical regulation. You know, this example of a mirror that's off kilter by you know, a couple inches. Yeah, it makes no sense. On the surface, I don't know the details, but it makes no sense. We need to make sure regulations there to, you know, make sure our air is clean, our water's clean, that toys that are shipped into our country are safe for our kids to play with, you know, that sort of thing. But these impractical ones, sure. You know, what person wouldn't want those to go away? I think it's rhetoric.
All right, now I think it's a good time for a question from the audience.
And you had to bring up Sensata, which is where I was going to go.
Sure.
Tom Gallra, in relation to George, the mayor of Freeport, he's a worker at Sensata. He's going to lose his job. He said he talked to you, Representative Schilling, a few weeks ago and asked if you would support legislation that would tax, fine, or dissuade corps from shipping jobs to China, and you said no. He wants to know why you would not support such common sense legislation that would save American jobs. And I guess after you answer that, then you can respond.
Sure.
Yeah, they came in. We had a Farm Bureau meeting, and Stand Up Chicago came in, closely tied to my opponent, kind of took over the Farm Bureau meeting that we had. It was pretty much a completely staged situation, very hostile. And, you know, if you reflect back on Gabby Giffords, what happened there, you know, we were trained to kind of get off to the side of the road. The people that she had there actually pinned one of my staffers to the wall, would not let them forward to the front. It was actually a pretty hostile situation. So, but to answer the question from Tom is, you know, the bill that they put together actually penalizes John Deere and Caterpillar by having jobs offshore. I'm unwilling to go in and penalize our American companies that have business offshore. Look at, you know, like I said earlier, 95% of our customers are outside of the U.S. Companies like John Deere, Caterpillar, if you talk to them, they'll tell you, look, we've got to get over there and compete with these people on their shoreline, because what they're doing is they're stealing our intellectual property, and then they're bringing it back here and opening up factories, so on and so forth. So I think that's something that's really, really important. You know, and another thing that's really important, I think, you know, they keep hitting Mitt Romney with Bain Capital, but I think they need to also dig into President Obama, who's supported by Bain Capital. He's the president of the United States. You know, since he's got all the support there, he could actually probably reach over and maybe have a conversation. I wrote a letter to the president of the company saying, look, I think you're making a big mistake. The reshoring's happening now. The best workers are right here, just like these guys. This is sad to see. You know, I think only 85% of the people have actually gotten new jobs, but there's some folks that have been working there all their lives. It's a sad situation, but I think the thing we've got to be able to do is when sad things like this happen, we've got to really focus in on getting them replaced to where they can get out there and find work. And when you get things like this happen, it's a bad deal. But, you know, I think that Sensata's making a big mistake. They're bringing jobs over to China where their payroll is going through the roof. They don't put out the quality work that we put out, and I think it's a bad move on their part.
So let's talk about that scenario for a second. We had, from what I understand, as Sensata employees who go to a town hall meeting that
was not a town hall meeting.
Okay.
It was the Ag Committee. The Farm Bureau was giving me an award.
So
big difference.
He goes to a meeting where a sitting congressman is asked for his opinion about how he would vote or how he has voted on a bill. I'll tell you this, and I'd like to share with anybody watching this, should I be elected, and if any constituent wants to ask me how I would vote, how I will vote, and even if we're not on the same page, I have no problem talking about that. I see it as a guy whose job is going to be lost the day after the November 6th election. His job is being shipped over to China after he's worked hard and worked at the same place for more than 30 years. And he simply asks the congressman, sir, how would you vote for the Bring American Jobs Home Act? When there's no answer, he says yes or no. How would you vote? And the congressman couldn't even have the decency to tell a guy whose job is being shipped over to China how he'd vote on that. You know, so that's how I see that. I support the Bring American Jobs Home Act. I support it because it focuses on jobs here. It focuses on making sure that jobs stay strong here, not in China. And you know, to not be able to answer a simple question and just say this is how I have voted or this is how I would vote, I think as a sitting member of Congress, that's not too tall of an order. That's how I see that situation, Anna.
Yeah, you know, and I think it's important to know I support all jobs here in the United States of America. What my opponent, sad to say, what they did is with the video that they put out on this Sada moment is a chopped up, cut up video that is very, very misleading to the American people. There are two videos. There's a full video showing exactly what happened, shows the person being pushed off to the side of the wall by their people. It shows how intense it was, and I think it's really important. This is something that's really critical, I believe, because this is about honesty and being open with people and just sharing the truth. Because if you look at the video that my opponent has posted on all of her websites and that, it's misleading completely. If you go to YouTube and you look at ours, it's Schilling the number 4 Congress, but it shows the whole thing. It shows how hostile the environment was that these folks created. I had a senior farmer gal that was there that was severely shaken up because this was so hostile. Look at, with everything going on in this country today, with Gabby Giffords being shot in the beginning of the last Congress hearing, I think this is a bad time for you to bring people from Chicago, Illinois into our district from Stand Up Chicago and try to intimidate and push our people around. It's just, it's not what we need. And that's the problem with Washington. Things have become so hostile. And to hire people from Chicago, Illinois, have them come to Freeport and intimidate and bully staffers on our staff, it's just, it's un-American. It's very frustrating that you guys would condone that.
You're saying you guys to whom? Who are you addressing that at?
To the people that you had at that meeting.
Anna, if I can continue on the same line since the started asking about this. First of all, I had nothing to do with that video. No one on my staff, no one on our campaign had anything to do with that video. I didn't even know that it existed until it was posted. You know, to call anybody un-American because they came into a meeting and asked a sitting congressman how he would vote.
The person pinning my person up against the wall, that's un-American when we're trying to have an ag meeting.
I have no knowledge of that whatsoever. But you know, I can only speak how I would behave in a situation. And I can tell you, I wouldn't walk out of a meeting.
I didn't walk out of the meeting. If you look at the video, folks, that's where the misleading part is here. If you look at our video, it shows that I stayed in the meeting the whole time. In Washington, D.C., after Gabby was shot, we are taught to push to the side when we feel that there's a threat. There was a threat in the room. We pushed to the side.
Anyway, I can only talk about how I would behave. And how I would behave would not be to walk out on somebody whose job is being outsourced to China. I would answer for my record. I would be happy to engage in a dialogue about what we can do to work together. And you know, it's just a totally, you know, it really does get down to you know, what our priorities are. You know, if we value our workers in our district and making sure that we have policies that we can vote on that can help them, you know, I mean, that's what I want to focus on.
And I just refer everyone to the video that our guy in the back of the room, and you'll see that I was engaging and having a conversation with the person. The video that she posted up is chopped and cut, and they pulled the conversation that I was having out of the videos.
I understand the motion attached to all this, but somewhere I would miss the answer to how would you vote on that, yes or no?
That's a bill that I would vote no, because that will penalize American companies, John Deere and Caterpillar in our district. It will penalize them. And here's the thing, if the federal government takes more money away from John Deere and Cat, how does that help us create and grow jobs here in America? It doesn't. And, you know, we've got to do, you know, when we talk about shipping jobs overseas, Illinois Democrats know that better than anybody, because here's what happens is the more regs, the more taxing you put, it's another incentive. My opponent also supports something, the Affordable Health Care Act. You know, there's a medical device tax in there, and in the district that we currently represent, and the district we're running in, Cook Medical Group is there. They make the heart stent. She supports and she says, let's move on from Obamacare. Look, it's going to cost 43,000 American jobs. It's all of the policies that she believes in that will ship more jobs overseas, and that's what we're trying to fix in Washington, D.C.